I have $12 to hire you as my dad. When 8-year-old Maeve Brennan whispered those words to Raymond Ironside Kowalski in a Hells Angels parking lot on a rainy Friday evening, she had 13 minutes to make it to her school's father-daughter dance, and nowhere else to turn. For 14 months, the child in the pink dress had been suffering in silence while 3 different authorities dismissed her pleas. But in the 17 minutes between when she offered everything she owned and when Ironside made one phone call that mobilized 187 bikers across 4 states, everything changed. This is Maeve and Ironside's story, and what she pulled from her pink dress pocket would expose a criminal who'd hidden in plain sight for years, and prove that sometimes the smallest voice, shaking with cold and terror but speaking anyway, can save not just one life, but hundreds. Before we continue, please subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Now, back to Maeve's story. Please, I only need you for 2 hours. The words came out barely louder than the wind rattling through the gravel parking lot. 5:47 p.m. on Friday, November 15th. 38 degrees and dropping. Light drizzle turning the asphalt dark and slick. Maeve Catherine Brennan stood 15 feet from the entrance to a building that terrified her more than going home. The Hells Angels Pennsylvania Clubhouse. 23 motorcycles lined up in perfect rows. 8 men working on bikes in the lot, grease on their hands, leather vests with patches that made her want to run. 6 more standing near the door, talking and laughing. All of them bigger than any person she'd ever tried to ask for help. All of them her last chance. Her 2 small Mary Jane shoes that were far too small and hurt her feet, had carried her 1.6 miles through Greenfield Township. Past the young couple leaving the pizza shop who'd said, "We're late for a movie," without stopping. Past the elderly man with the dog who'd started pulling out his phone to call police, making her run. Past the woman locking up the accounting office who'd called her a scammer when she'd shown the $12. Past the 3 women from Grace Community Church who'd looked at the burn mark on her palm, told her, bearing false witness is a sin, and suggested she apologize to her parents. The bikers were all she had left. The pink dress her grandmother had made hung loose on her frame. 2 sizes too big now. The careful white lace collar damp from rain. The small mend on the left sleeve where Maeve had hand-stitched the torn seam visible, even in the fading light. She clutched the Ziploc bag containing her life savings against her chest like a shield. $12. 2 years of birthday money from Grandma, saved in a hidden envelope, counted and recounted 100 times. Quarters and dollar bills that had survived 14 months of Marcus Holloway's searches, hidden inside the hollowed-out Anne of Green Gables book under the loose floorboard. $12 to buy 2 hours of safety. The father-daughter dance started in 13 minutes. Maeve's hands shook. The tremor that came when she was scared. The one Marcus said made her look weak. The one she couldn't control no matter how hard she tried. Her injured lip from 4 days ago was still healing. The fading bruise on her left forearm, signs of physical harm, peeked out from under her sleeve. She took 1 step forward. The gravel crunched under her shoe, stopped, counted to 10 in her head the way Grandma taught her, whispered the words she'd practiced. "I'm braver than I know." Took another step. One of the men near the door looked up, tall, massive, gray-streaked beard, tattoos covering both arms. The patches on his vest said things she couldn't quite read from here, but the skull with wings was clear enough. His eyes found her, locked on. Maeve froze. Every nerve in her body screamed run. But behind her was Marcus. Behind her was the locked bedroom where she was confined in terrible conditions, and the walls that got smaller every day. Behind her was days without proper food. Behind her was 17 months since she'd felt safe. Forward was terror. Backward was worse. She chose forward. "Excuse me?" Her voice cracked. She tried again, louder. "Excuse me, sir?" The big man with the gray beard straightened up from where he'd been leaning against a Harley. Set down the clipboard he'd been holding. The pen slipped from his fingers, clattered on gravel. For 3 seconds, he didn't move, just stared. Then he dropped to one knee. The movement was slow, deliberate, like he was approaching a scared animal. His 6'4" frame folded down until his eyes were level with hers. Both hands open, palms up. The right hand was missing 2 fingers, pinky and ring finger gone at the second knuckle, scar tissue smooth and shiny. His voice when he spoke was rough as the gravel under her feet, but gentle as anything she'd heard in 14 months. "Hey there, sweetheart. You okay?" Maeve's vision blurred. Tears she'd been holding back for the entire walk here, for the 4 rejections, for the terror of approaching these men, suddenly spilled over. She shook her head. No, she wasn't okay. She hadn't been okay in so long she barely remembered what okay felt like. "I have $12, she whispered. Held out the Ziploc bag with both hands. "To hire you as my dad." The man's face changed. Something flashed across it, pain, recognition, fierce, protective anger that somehow didn't feel directed at her. His eyes moved from her face to the bag, to her 2 thin arms, to the bruise on her forearm, to the split lip, back to her face. "You don't need $12, sweetheart." His voice got quieter, more gentle. "You've got me." Behind him, the 5 other bikers had stopped talking. One of them, shorter, older, maybe late 60s, had turned completely away, shoulders shaking. Another had his phone out already, typing fast. The big man reached forward slowly, telegraphing every movement. Took the Ziploc bag from her hands with his scarred fingers. Set it on the ground beside her feet. Not keeping it. Returning it. "When's the dance?" 6 o'clock. Maeve's voice was barely a whisper now. "At school. It ends at 8. I need to be safe for 2 hours. I have the $12, that's all I have. But I need someone to take me and stay with me, and then—" "Hey." The man's hand came up, rested gently on her shoulder. Warm even through the damp pink fabric. "Breathe for me." "Can you do that?" "Just breathe." Maeve tried. Her chest hitched. Breathing hurt. Everything hurt. "What's your name?" "Maeve." "Maeve, I'm Ironside. You look at me, sweetheart. Right here." He tapped his chest over his heart. "You're safe now. You understand? You're under Hell's Angels' protection. That means Marcus—" Maeve flinched at the name. Ironside's jaw clenched. "That means whoever hurt you doesn't touch you again. Not tonight. Not ever." "How did you know his name is Marcus?" "Because you flinched when I said it." Ironside's voice was still gentle, but something underneath it had gone cold and hard. "Tell me what's happening. Fast as you can. We've got 10 minutes to get you to that dance." The words tumbled out. They'd been building pressure for 14 months, pressing against her ribs, choking her when she tried to sleep. Now they came in a flood. "He's my stepdad. He married my mom 17 months ago. He locks me in my bedroom and I can't get out. He restricts my access to food and I rarely get enough to eat. He burned my hand 3 weeks ago, see? She held up her right palm. The burn mark, still not properly healed from poor healing. He tells Mom I'm lying, that I'm troubled, that I need discipline. He pulled me out of school 2 months ago and said we're homeschooling, but he doesn't teach me anything. He just keeps me isolated and confined and— Stop! Ironside's voice cut through her spiral gently. I've got it. You're being abused. Systematic starvation, physical abuse, isolation. How long? 14 months. You tried to get help before? Maeve nodded, words still spilling. School counselor, doctor, child services, neighbor. Nobody believed me. Marcus he's good at lying. He's a sales director. He coaches basketball. Everyone thinks he's nice. Last question. Ironside's eyes were locked on hers. Intense, but not scary. Why tonight? Why now? What changed? Maeve's hands went to her dress pocket, pulled out something small, rectangular. An old tablet, screen cracked, battery indicator showing 3%. Last Sunday, I recorded him. He was on a video call. He didn't know I could hear through the heating vent. She pressed play. Marcus Holloway's voice came through, autos tinny but clear. I've got another batch ready. 73 identities, full packages, all hospital patients over 65. 800 each, that's 58,400 total. Pause. Friday the 15th works for transfer. By then I'll have wrapped up the exit strategy. Wife has no idea. She thinks I'm devoted stepdad, model husband. Another pause. The kid? The stepdaughter? She's a problem I'm handling. Pulled her from school last month. No witnesses now. She keeps trying to tell people about me, but I've got her labeled as troubled. Nobody believes her. Different voice. Too quiet to make out. No risk. I've got CPS convinced she's got behavioral issues. And honestly, by New Year I'll be in Costa Rica anyway. Wife can deal with the kid. Not my problem. Ironside's face had gone absolutely still. The kind of still that meant violence was being held back by pure will. His scarred hand closed around the tablet carefully. How long is the whole recording? 8 minutes. Does Marcus know you have this? No. I hid the tablet inside a book under my floorboard. Ironside stood, turned to the 5 bikers behind him. Wrench, Pops, Diesel, Smoke, Tiny. Each name was a command. She's 8 years old, 52 pounds. Multiple signs of systematic abuse and starvation. Stepfather's running an identity theft operation, planning to flee country in 6 weeks, leaving her behind. She just gave us a recorded confession. The man who'd been crying, Wrench, gray-haired, late 50s, wiped his face with his sleeve. What do you need? Get Tank on the phone. I want every brother within 200 miles. Full mobilization. Ironside pulled out his own phone. Dialed. Put it to his ear. 3 rings. Tank, it's Ironside. His voice had shifted completely. Command tone. President of a motorcycle club with 187 members across 4 states. I need every brother within a 2-hour radius at 1847 Willow Ridge Court, Greenfield Township. Now. Pause. Maeve could hear a voice on the other end, questioning. What's going on? An 8-year-old girl just walked up to our clubhouse with $12, trying to hire someone to protect her from her stepdad, who's been starving her and planning to abandon her when he flees to Costa Rica with $340,000 he stole from hospital patients. We're not waiting for CPS to take their time on this one. Shorter pause. Say no more. We're coming. The line went dead. Ironside looked at Maeve, his expression transforming again, back to gentle, protective, safe. He pulled off his leather vest. The Hells Angels President patch on the back, the skull with wings, the rockers that said Pennsylvania and Sergeant at Arms. He draped it over her shoulders. The vest was massive on her, hung to her knees, still warm from his body heat, smelling of leather and motor oil and cigarette smoke. It weighed maybe 4 pounds. Maeve's thin shoulders could barely hold it up, but she wouldn't take it off for anything. You wear this tonight, Ironside said. Every person in that school sees this patch. They know you're protected. And Marcus? His voice went hard again. Marcus is going to see 187 motorcycles when he comes looking for you. He's going to understand he made a very big mistake. He reached into the vest pocket, his vest, the one he'd just given her, and pulled out a photo. 2 little girls, maybe 7 or 8 years old, identical faces, gap-toothed smiles, wearing matching pink dresses. Rebecca and Rachel, Ironside said quietly. My daughters. They died 11 years ago. Drunk driver hit their school bus. They'd be 19 now if they'd lived. He looked at Maeve's pink dress, her thin face, her size. They'd want me to help you. So that's what I'm doing. He held out his hand, the one missing 2 fingers, scarred, huge, impossibly gentle. Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you to that dance. Ironside's Road King, black and chrome Harley-Davidson, 2015 model, roared to life with a sound that shook the gravel. Maeve sat in front of him, the president's vest wrapped around her like armor, his massive frame shielding her from the wind. They reached Greenfield Elementary School at 6:04 p.m. 4 minutes late. The parking lot was full of cars, fathers and daughters streaming into the gymnasium entrance, laughter and music bleeding through the doors, pink and white balloons tied to the railing. Ironside parked the bike, dismounted, held out his hand again. Maeve took it. Her small fingers disappeared inside his scarred palm. They walked toward the entrance together. A 6-foot 4-inch Hell's Angel and a 4-foot 1-inch girl in a too big pink dress and a president's vest. Every head in the parking lot turned. Parents pulled their children closer. Whispers started. Ironside ignored them all, kept his hand gentle around Maeve's, kept his stride slow so she could keep up on her cramped toes. The gymnasium was decorated with streamers and fairy lights, punch bowl on a folding table, DJ booth in the corner playing Disney songs, 50 father-daughter pairs dancing, laughing, taking photos. Maeve froze in the doorway. I don't know how to dance. Neither do I, Ironside said. Guess we'll figure it out together. He led her onto the dance floor, kneeled down again, that same one-knee position that put him at her height, put her tiny hands on his shoulders. His hands rested carefully on her waist, barely touching, letting her control the distance. They swayed to the music. Maeve couldn't remember the last time someone had touched her gently, couldn't remember the last time she'd felt safe enough to close her eyes. You did good tonight, Maeve, Ironside said quietly. You walked 1.5 miles in shoes that hurt. You asked 4 different people for help, even when they turned you away. You approached men who scared you because staying home was scarier. That's courage, sweetheart. Real courage. Your grandma would be proud. Maeve's vision blurred again. How did you know about my grandma? The pink dress. Ironside's voice was gentle. The way you're holding on to it even though it's too big. The way you mended the sleeve yourself. That's love. Someone who loved you made that dress. And you've been carrying that love with you this whole time, even when everything else got taken away. The music shifted. Slower song. Father-daughter pairs moved together in the dim light. But Maeve wasn't paying attention to the music anymore. She was paying attention to the feeling of being safe, of being protected, of wearing a vest that meant 187 brothers would come if she needed them, of having someone who believed her. "What happens at 8 o'clock?" she whispered. "When the dance ends, do I have to go home?" "No," Ironside said. His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "You never have to go back there. Not tonight. Not ever. When this dance ends, you're going somewhere safe. Child Services is being called. The right people this time, not the ones Marcus fooled. And by the time Marcus figures out where you are, he's going to be surrounded by every Hell's Angel in Pennsylvania. We clear?" Maeve nodded. Relief flooded through her so fast it made her dizzy. Across the gymnasium, standing near the door, a massive figure appeared. 6'6", 280 pounds, arms the size of tree trunks. He wore a Hell's Angels vest with different patches. Sergeant at Arms. The name Tiny embroidered below the death's head. He caught Ironside's eye, nodded once, crossed his arms and planted himself in the doorway like a sentinel. Nobody was getting past Tiny. Not Marcus. Not anyone. Maeve was safe. For 2 hours she danced with a man who'd lost his daughters and found a chance to protect one more child. For 2 hours she ate cookies and drank punch and didn't worry about whether there would be food tomorrow. For 2 hours she wore a vest that meant family, protection, belonging. And 17 miles away, in an apartment on Willow Ridge Court, Marcus Allen Holloway was about to discover that stealing $340,000 from hospital patients was the second worst mistake he'd ever made. The worst mistake was underestimating an 8-year-old girl with $12 and the courage to ask for help. 8:07 p.m. The father-daughter dance ended with a final song. 1,000 years played while fathers spun daughters under fairy lights and took last photos at the balloon arch. Maeve stood with Ironside near the punch bowl, the president's vest still draped over her shoulders, her hand in his scarred palm. She'd eaten 3 cookies, half a cup of punch. Her stomach hurt from the sugar after 6 days of near starvation. But it was the good kind of hurt. The kind that meant food, safety, being allowed to exist. Principal Karen Oates had been watching them all night, whispering to other teachers, making phone calls from the hallway. Now she approached, her smile tight and professional and completely fake. "Excuse me, sir. I'm going to need to speak with Maeve's parent or legal guardian." Ironside's voice stayed gentle, but there was steel underneath. "You're looking at her guardian. For tonight, anyway. Child Protective Services is already on their way." Principal Oates's smile froze. "I'm sorry, but we can't just release students to a Hell's Angel?" Ironside finished. "No, ma'am, you can't. Which is why Detective Wrench Murphy, formerly of Philadelphia PD, 25 years on the force, is standing right over there." He nodded toward the gray-haired man who'd been crying in the parking lot. Wrench had cleaned up, put on a button-down shirt over his vest, looked almost respectable if you ignored the tattoos and the road-worn face. "He's coordinating with county CPS and local police right now. Emergency protective custody. Judge Carter signed the order at 7:45. Maeve's not going home tonight." Principal Oates opened her mouth, closed it. "Maeve hasn't been to school in 2 months. Her stepfather Marcus said they were homeschooling. Did you verify that? Ironside's voice got quieter. Dangerous quiet. Did you do a home visit? Did you check if the child was actually being educated? Or did you take Marcus Holloway at his word because he coaches basketball and volunteers at the Rotary Club? Principal Oates's face flushed. We followed protocol. Your protocol failed. Ironside didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. This 8-year-old girl weighs 52 pounds. She has cigarette burns, rope marks, bruises in the shape of adult fingers. She's been systematically starved and tortured for 14 months. And when Marcus told you he was pulling her from school to homeschool her, you didn't ask a single follow-up question. You just let her disappear. The principal had no answer for that. By 8:30, the parking lot had transformed. Now, you might be imagining chaos. 200 Hell's Angels roaring up to an elementary school, fists ready, engines screaming, leather and chrome and barely controlled rage. That's the story you expected, right? Vigilante justice. Mob mentality. Violence brewing. That's not what happened. What happened was this. At 8:47 p.m., the first wave arrived. 43 motorcycles from the New Jersey chapter, rolling in with military precision. They parked in perfect formation in the overflow lot across the street. Engines died almost in unison. Silence after all that thunder. The riders dismounted, stood beside their bikes, didn't shout, didn't threaten, just stood there, arms crossed, watching the school entrance. At 9:04, the Delaware chapter. 38 bikes. Same formation, same disciplined silence. At 9:19, Maryland. 39 more. By 9:45 p.m., 187 motorcycles lined the streets surrounding Greenfield Elementary, 187 bikers in leather vests bearing the same death's head patch, the same brotherhood, standing in the November cold. Not a protest fueled by anger. A peaceful stand. A message written in chrome and leather that said, "We see you. We're watching. And we don't forget." Inside the gymnasium-turned-command center, Wrench Murphy had set up a folding table with his laptop and phone. Former Philadelphia detective, 58 years old, retired 2018, grandfather of 4. He'd spent 25 years working sex crimes and child abuse cases, had learned to navigate the system, to work with authorities instead of against them, to build cases that held up in court. Beside him sat Diesel Torres, 44, former Army MP, tech specialist. He'd already copied Maeve's tablet recording to 3 separate drives, already sent copies to the FBI field office in Philadelphia, County CPS, and Greenfield Township PD. Already started the digital forensics that would crack Marcus's encrypted laptop. "Talk to me about the stepfather," Wrench said, his voice calm and professional. Interview tone, the voice that made witnesses trust him. "Marcus Holloway. What do we know?" Ironside, sitting across the table with Maeve beside him, laid out the facts. 43 years old, regional sales director for MedTech Solutions, married Jessica Brennan, Maeve's mother, 17 months ago. Started isolating Maeve within 3 months. Escalated to physical abuse by month 6. Withdrew her from school 2 months ago under false homeschool claim. "Financial motive?" Diesel asked, fingers flying across his keyboard. "Identity theft operation." Ironside held up the tablet. "Recorded confession. He's been stealing patient records from Greenfield Memorial Hospital, That's where Jessica works, medical records department. $340,000 stolen over 18 months. Planning exit strategy to Costa Rica. Leaving by New Year. Wrench leaned back. That's federal. FBI will want this. Already sent, Diesel confirmed. Agent Sarah Chen, Philadelphia white-collar crimes. She's driving up now. ETA 90 minutes. What about the abuse case? Wrench pulled out a notebook. Old school. He still preferred paper for witness interviews. We need to document everything before CPS takes custody. Diesel, you recording? Video and audio. Diesel adjusted the camera on a tripod, angled toward Maeve. Maeve, is it okay if we record your statement? This will help make sure Marcus can never hurt you again. Maeve looked at Ironside. He nodded. It's okay, sweetheart. Just tell them what you told me. She did. Haltingly at first, then faster as the words found their way out. The locked bedroom, the padlocked refrigerator, the cigarette burns, the cold, the isolation, the failed attempts to get help. Smoke Williams, 39 years old, youngest member of the leadership circle, former paramedic, sat beside her with a first aid kit. As she talked, he gently examined her injuries with gloved hands, photographing each one, documenting medical evidence that would hold up in court. Cigarette burn, right palm, Smoke narrated for the camera. Circular, approximately 8 millimeters diameter, 3 weeks old based on healing stage, signs of infection, redness, clear discharge, needs antibiotic treatment. He dabbed the wound gently with antiseptic. Maeve flinched, but didn't pull away. Bruising, left forearm. Pattern consistent with adult male grip. 4 fingers, 1 thumb. Yellow-green coloration indicates 7 to 9 days since injury. Split lip, lower right side. 4 days old. Healed but vulnerable to re-splitting. Malnutrition evident. Patient appears underweight for age. Muscle wasting in arms and legs. Will recommend full medical evaluation and nutritional assessment. Each injury photographed, documented, added to the growing case file. By 10:15 they had more than enough for emergency protective custody, but Wrench wasn't done building the case. He was building something that would send Marcus Holloway to prison for decades. We need witness statements, Wrench said. People who saw signs but didn't act. Gives us timeline, establishes pattern, shows systematic failure. Pops Donovan, 67, Vietnam veteran, club founder, the elder statesman who'd seen everything in his 40 years with the Angels, stood. I'll do door to door, apartment complex first. He left with 3 younger members. 20 minutes later, they returned with Violet Hernandez. Violet Hernandez, 67 years old, retired elementary school teacher, lived in apartment 2C, right next door to Marcus and Jessica Holloway's apartment, separated by a thin wall that carried sound like whispers in a church. She sat at the folding table, hands shaking. Coffee mug smoke had given her clutched between her palms. Her voice came out small and guilty. I heard crying, Violet said. Multiple times. Through the walls. Late at night. Early morning. A child crying, begging. Please, I'm hungry. Please, let me out. Daddy would never do this. Over and over. When did you first hear this? Wrench's pen moved across his notebook. August. Maybe late July. It got worse over time. By October, I was hearing it 3-4 times a week. Did you do anything? Violet's face crumpled. I told the building manager, Todd Simmons, September 23rd. I showed up at his office and I said, something's wrong next door. I keep hearing a child crying. I think she's being hurt. What did Mr. Simmons do? He went to Marcus's apartment, knocked on the door. Marcus invited him inside, showed him around. Said Maeve had anxiety disorder, that she cried easily, that they were working with a therapist. He was so calm, so reasonable. Todd came back and told me the father seemed on top of it, that there was a therapist involved, that I shouldn't worry. Did you stop reporting? Yes. The word came out broken. I felt dismissed, like I was being paranoid. Marcus was so respected in the building. He helped people carry groceries. He shoveled the sidewalk when it snowed. Everyone liked him. She looked at Maeve, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. I should have kept calling. I should have gone to police myself. I knew something was wrong, and I stopped trying. Wrench made notes. Mrs. Hernandez, your testimony is crucial. It establishes that authorities were notified and failed to act. That's not your failure. That's the system's failure. It feels like my failure. Violet wiped her eyes. I taught elementary school for 34 years. I know what abuse looks like. And I looked away. Pops squeezed her shoulder gently. You're helping now. That counts. At 10:47, Dennis Roth arrived. 41 years old, 8 years with Greenfield County Child Protective Services, the caseworker who'd closed Maeve's case as unfounded 2 months ago. He didn't want to be there. Sat with his arms crossed, defensive body language, jaw tight. Mr. Roth, Wrench said calmly. September 11th, you received an anonymous call to the CPS hotline, reporting suspected child abuse at 1847 Willow Ridge Court, apartment 2B. I remember. Walk me through what happened. Dennis sighed, uncrossed his arms. His defensiveness cracked slightly, revealing something underneath. Guilt, frustration, exhaustion. I did an unannounced home visit, September 13th, 2 days after the call. Friday afternoon around 4 p.m. Marcus Holloway answered the door, very cooperative, invited me in immediately, no resistance. Describe what you saw. Clean apartment, well-maintained. Kitchen had food in the fridge. I could see through the open door. Living room had educational materials on the coffee table. Homeschool curriculum, workbooks, pencils. Marcus explained they'd recently withdrawn Maeve from school to provide individualized education due to her special needs. Did you see Maeve? Yes, she was sitting on the couch. Quiet, shy. Marcus was present the entire time. Said she felt more comfortable with him nearby due to her anxiety. I asked her a few questions. Are you okay? Do you feel safe? She nodded yes to both. Didn't speak much. Did you notice any injuries? Dennis's hands clenched into fists on the table. No visible injuries. She was wearing long sleeves and pants. Looking back now. His voice trailed off. Mr. Roth, what's your caseload? 47 active cases. 47 families, 47 children, and you're one person. Is that standard? Understaffed, always have been. Average caseload should be 20, maybe 25. I've got 47. How long did you spend at the Holloway residence? 23 minutes. I timed it. I always do. I had 3 more visits that afternoon. So you had less than half an hour to evaluate a home where anonymous caller reported child abuse. Father presents perfect facade. Child too scared to speak. You're rushed, overworked, dealing with budget cuts and impossible caseload. And you made the call to close the case based on what you could see in 23 minutes. Dennis's voice cracked. I made the wrong call. Is that what you want me to say? I made the wrong call? I should have insisted on speaking to her alone. I should have done a follow-up. I should have trusted my gut because something felt off, even if I couldn't put my finger on it. But I had 46 other cases and a supervisor who wanted numbers down and a system that punishes us for keeping cases open too long. So I closed it. I wrote, unfounded, No evidence of abuse or educational neglect. And I moved on. He looked at Maeve. I'm sorry. God, kid, I'm so sorry. Wrench finished his notes. Your testimony establishes systemic failure at CPS level. Understaffing, supervisor pressure, impossible caseloads. That's bigger than you, Mr. Roth. That's institutional. Doesn't make that little girl any less hurt. No, Wrench agreed. It doesn't. At 11:03, Diesel looked up from his laptop, eyes bright with the kind of discovery that changes everything. Found something. Big. Everyone turned. I've been digging into Marcus's background while we wait for FBI. Public records mostly. Death certificates, marriage licenses, insurance policies. And I found this. He turned the laptop screen toward Wrench and Ironside. Patricia Ann Holloway, Marcus's first wife, died March 2019, 5.5 years ago. Natural causes? Wrench asked, but his voice said he already knew the answer. Officially? Accidental drug overdose. Oxycodone mixed with alcohol. Death certificate signed by Dr. Raymond Foster, same doctor who saw Maeve's cigarette burn 4 months ago and didn't report it. Ironside's jaw clenched. Life insurance? $280,000. Whole life policy. Increased from $100,000 to $280,000 in November 2018. Patricia died 4 months later. That's not a coincidence, Wrench muttered, writing faster. Gets better. Diesel clicked to another file. Patricia's sister Margaret tried to investigate the death. Filed police report questioning circumstances. Patricia had been sober for 3 years. Alcohol recovery. Never abused prescription drugs. Toxicology showed oxycodone levels consistent with 8 to 10 pills taken at once. Margaret found Patricia's journal describing Marcus pressuring her to take pain pills for a back injury. Journal disappeared from evidence locker before inquest. Who was the investigating detective? Gerald Morrison, retired 2021. Moved to Florida. Convenient. Wrench tapped his pen against the notebook. So we've got a pattern. First wife dies suspiciously, Marcus gets $280,000. Second wife's daughter gets systematically abused, while Marcus steals $340,000 from her workplace. Both situations involve Marcus positioning himself as upstanding citizen, isolating victims, creating narrative where they're troubled, so nobody believes them when they try to get help. He's done this before, Ironside said quietly. Patricia tried to tell people something was wrong, just like Maeve. And the system failed her too, except Patricia didn't survive it. Maeve had gone very still, huddled inside Ironside's vest. He killed his first wife? We don't have proof, Wrench said carefully. But we have enough to reopen the investigation. And when FBI starts digging into his finances, they're going to find that $280,000 was seed money for the identity theft operation. Patricia's death funded his criminal enterprise. The room went quiet for 5 seconds. Just the hum of Diesel's laptop fan and the distant rumble of 187 motorcycles idling outside. Then Ironside stood. Where is he? Marcus, where is he right now? Home, Pops said from the doorway, phone in hand. Got brothers watching the apartment. He's been calling Jessica every 10 minutes, panicking. She's not answering. She's at work, night shift at the hospital. Marcus knows Maeve's missing. He's pacing, looking out windows. Hasn't tried to run yet. Take me there. Ironside's voice was command tone again. President mode. Wrench, coordinate with FBI when they arrive. Diesel, keep digging. Smoke, stay with Maeve. Pops, Tiny, you're with me. We're paying Marcus Holloway a visit. Ironside, Wrench said carefully. Police should handle the arrest. Police are going to handle the arrest. We're just going to have a conversation first. Make sure Marcus understands what happens when you hurt children. Make sure he knows 187 brothers are watching. Make sure he's too scared to even think about running before FBI gets here. Wrench studied Ironside's face, saw the control there, the discipline, the barely leashed rage channeled into something purposeful. No violence. No violence, Ironside agreed. Just a conversation between adults about consequences. Willow Ridge apartment complex looked like every other suburban housing development in Pennsylvania. Beige siding, black shutters, small balconies with grills and folding chairs, parking lot half full, lights on in maybe 60% of units. Apartment 2B, second floor, end unit. Marcus Holloway's lights were on. Shadows moving behind curtains. 43 motorcycles were parked in the lot and lining the street. Not blocking anything, not threatening anyone. Just present, visible. A statement written in chrome that said, "We know where you live." Residents had come out on balconies to watch. Phones out, filming. Whispers spreading building to building. Ironside, Pops, and Tiny walked up the exterior stairs to the second floor. 3 men in leather vests, moving with the coordinated efficiency of soldiers who'd ridden together for decades. Ironside knocked. 3 steady raps. "Marcus Holloway, we need to talk." 15 seconds passed. The door opened 6 inches. Chain lock engaged. Marcus's face appeared in the gap. And here's the thing about evil. It doesn't look like monsters. It looks like a 43-year-old sales director with a neat haircut and concerned expression wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Marcus looked like every youth basketball coach and Rotary Club volunteer and devoted stepfather. Clean-shaven, manicured nails, cologne. Completely ordinary. He was eating a sandwich. When Greenfield Township Police arrived 30 minutes later, Marcus Allen Holloway was still eating that sandwich. Turkey and Swiss on wheat bread. 1 bite taken, the kind of normal Friday night dinner a normal person eats. He had mayonnaise on his thumb. He'd been watching football highlights on his phone. The same hands that burned Maeve with cigarettes were holding an iPhone. The same person who systematically starved an 8-year-old for 14 months had remembered to put lettuce and tomato on his sandwich. Because to Marcus, this was normal. Hurting children, stealing identities, planning to abandon his wife and stepdaughter. It was just another Tuesday. Just business. Just what he did. He looked annoyed when he opened the door, like Ironside had interrupted something important. "Can I help you?" Marcus's voice was polite, professional. Sales director voice. "Your stepdaughter Maeve is safe," Ironside said. "She's not coming home. FBI is on their way to discuss your identity theft operation. County CPS has emergency custody, and 187 Hells Angels are going to be here until police arrive to make sure you don't even think about running." Marcus's expression didn't change for 3 seconds. Then it cracked. Just slightly. Fear flickering through. "I don't know what you're talking about. If Maeve told you something, she's troubled. She has behavioral issues. Ask anyone. Her therapist, her doctor. CPS already investigated and found nothing." "Dr. Milton Green," Ironside said. "Never saw Maeve alone. Only got your version of events. $200 per session. 17 sessions. That's $3,400 to create a paper trail showing troubled child instead of abused child." Marcus's hand tightened on the doorframe. "Dr. Raymond Foster. Saw cigarette burn 4 months ago. Accepted your explanation without question. Failed to file mandatory abuse report. We've already filed complaint with State Medical Board. Patricia Ann Holloway, Pops added from behind Ironside. Your first wife. Died March 2019, $280,000 payout. That investigation's being reopened tonight. Marcus's face went completely white. You can't. We can. Ironside's voice got quieter, more dangerous. And we did. FBI agent Sarah Chen is very interested in your encrypted laptop, especially the spreadsheet labeled Sales Prospects Q3, containing 427 stolen patient identities. Also interested in your Cayman Islands bank accounts, and the property in Costa Rica purchased under Shell Corporation last September. I want a lawyer. Good. You're going to need one. Ironside leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper that carried more threat than shouting ever could. Here's what's happening, Marcus. You're going to stay in this apartment. You're going to wait quietly. When police arrive, you're going to cooperate fully. Because if you try to run, if you try to destroy evidence, if you even think about calling Jessica to manipulate her one more time, these 43 motorcycles outside become 187, and we will follow you everywhere you go until you're behind bars. Are we clear? Marcus swallowed hard. Nodded. Good. Ironside straightened. Oh, and Marcus? That 8-year-old girl you've been starving? She recorded you. Sunday night, November 3rd, 8 minutes and 47 seconds. The kid's a problem I'm handling. By New Year, I'll be in Costa Rica. Not my problem. Your voice, your words, admitting to everything. FBI has 3 copies. You're done. Marcus's sandwich fell from his hand, hit the floor. Mayonnaise side down. At 11:53 p.m., barely 4 hours after Maeve had whispered, I have $12 to hire you as my dad, Greenfield Township Police arrived with FBI agent Sarah Chen, 3 field agents, and a warrant. They arrested Marcus Allen Holloway in his living room, read him his rights while he stood in his socks, polo shirt, khakis, hands behind his back, wrists in cuffs, face pressed against the floor. The charges read like a crime novel. Identity theft, 427 counts. Wire fraud, conspiracy to commit Medicare fraud, child endangerment, felony assault, unlawful imprisonment. When FBI seized his laptop and found the encrypted files Diesel had already copied, they added obstruction of justice. When they found the Cayman Islands account information and Costa Rica property deed, they added money laundering. Bail was set at $500,000. Marcus had $61,847 liquid. Not enough. Not even close. He wouldn't make bail for 3 weeks. By then, FBI had traced his buyer network and arrested 12 co-conspirators in 5 states. By then, hospital security footage showed Marcus accessing Jessica's computer 47 times over 18 months. By then, 427 victims had been notified their identities were stolen. By then, Maeve Catherine Brennan was safe, warm, fed, and sleeping in a foster home that had been vetted by Wrench personally. And by then, Patricia Holloway's case had been reopened. Margaret Patterson, Patricia's sister, 71 years old, who'd spent 5 years trying to get someone to listen, brought Patricia's journal to the Hells Angels clubhouse. Wrench hand-delivered it to state police. The handwriting was shaky, but clear. Marcus keeps pressuring me to take pain pills, says I need them for my back. But I've been sober 3 years. I don't want to take them. I'm scared. 3 entries later. He refilled my prescription without asking. 30 oxycodone. I haven't taken any. Where did he get the prescription? Final entry. 2 days before her death. If anything happens to me, Marcus did it. Evidence. Finally. 5 years too late for Patricia. But not too late for Maeve. The emergency foster home was on Maple Street, 3 blocks from Ironside's house. 2-story colonial, white with blue shutters, small front porch with a swing. Helen Martinez, 54 years old, certified foster parent for 12 years, 16 children placed successfully, 0 complaints. Wrench had vetted her personally, called 3 references, reviewed her file twice, made surprise visit at 1 a.m. to see how she handled crisis. Helen had answered the door in pajamas, made hot chocolate, and had a bedroom ready in 15 minutes. "This is temporary," Wrench explained to Maeve as they pulled up at 1:47 a.m. She was still wearing Ironside's vest, still clutching the Ziploc bag with $12. "Just until we can get everything sorted with your mom. Week, maybe 2. Helen's good people. She's got 2 other foster kids right now. Teenagers, girls. They've been with her 8 months. They'll help you settle in." Maeve nodded. She was so tired she could barely keep her eyes open. Smoke had given her a granola bar and water at the school, but her body was shutting down from 14 months of survival mode finally ending. Helen met them at the door. Soft voice, gentle movements, the kind of person who'd learned to approach traumatized children like scared animals, slowly, carefully, letting them set the pace. "Hi, Maeve. I'm Helen. Your room's upstairs, second door on the left. It's got clean sheets, warm blankets, and a nightlight if you want it. Bathroom's across the hall. You can lock your door from the inside. You're in control of your space here. Breakfast is at 8, but if you wake up hungry before then, kitchen's always open. Okay?" Maeve looked at Ironside. He kneeled down one more time, that same position he'd taken in the gravel parking lot 7 hours ago. "I'll be here tomorrow," he said quietly. 10 a.m. We'll go see your mom at the hospital, talk to CPS together, figure out the next steps. You're safe now, sweetheart. Helen's good people. The brothers are watching the house. Nobody gets near you without going through us first." "Can I keep the vest?" Maeve's voice was tiny. "It's yours." Ironside smiled, first real smile she'd seen from him. "President's vest means you're family now. Means 187 brothers will come if you need them. You hang on to that." Maeve went inside. Helen showed her the bedroom. Pale yellow walls, full-size bed with floral quilt, dresser with stuffed animals on top, bookshelf with actual books, window with curtains that locked, door with a lock on the inside. Privacy. Safety. Warmth. Maeve collapsed onto the bed, still wearing the pink dress and the president's vest, and fell asleep before Helen could offer pajamas. She slept for 14 hours straight. Saturday morning, 10:07 a.m. Ironside arrived at Helen's house with Wrench, Smoke, and a duffel bag full of donated clothes from club members' daughters. Sizes 8 and 10, mostly, enough to get Maeve through the next few weeks. Smoke had also brought medical supplies. "We need to get you to a doctor," he said gently. "Real doctor, not the one Marcus fooled. Get those burns treated properly. Make sure you're healing okay. Check your weight, maybe start a nutrition plan. Sound good?" Maeve nodded. She was wearing borrowed pajamas from one of Helen's other foster daughters, sitting at the kitchen table eating scrambled eggs and toast with strawberry jam. Helen had given her a full plate. Maeve had eaten half, then stopped. Her stomach couldn't handle more yet. But she'd eaten, and nobody had told her no. Nobody had locked the food away. The refrigerator was open, accessible, full. The simple act of seeing available food made her want to cry. Wrench sat down across from her, laptop open. "Okay, kiddo, Here's where we're at. FBI arrested Marcus at midnight. He's in federal custody, no bail yet. They're processing evidence. Laptop, bank records, all the identity theft stuff. That's federal charges, federal prison. He's looking at minimum 20 years, possibly 45. For the identity theft? Maeve asked. For everything. Identity theft, fraud, child abuse, unlawful imprisonment. Prosecutors stacking charges. And here's the thing. Patricia's case got reopened. Marcus's first wife. If they can prove he killed her, that's murder 1. Life sentence, no parole. What about my mom? Wrench's expression softened. Your mom didn't know. FBI cleared her this morning. She thought Marcus was a good guy. He manipulated her, isolated her, controlled all the money. She's a victim too, Maeve. Different kind of victim, but still a victim. She wants to see you. Soon as you're ready. Today? If you want. She's waiting at the hospital. Off shift, just waiting. We can go now. Greenfield Memorial Hospital Cafeteria. 11:30 a.m. Jessica Brennan sat at a corner table, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't touched, eyes red from crying. She looked up when Maeve walked in. Small figure in borrowed jeans and sweatshirt, Ironside's vest over her shoulders, flanked by 3 bikers and a former detective. Maevie, Jessica's voice broke. Maeve stopped 6 feet away, uncertain, scared. This was Mom, but Mom had believed Marcus. Mom had let this happen. I didn't know, Jessica whispered. Baby, I swear to God, I didn't know. He told me you were troubled. He showed me reports from Dr. Green. He said you were lying for attention, that you were jealous of our relationship. He was so convincing. And I believed him. I believed him over you. The words hung between them. An admission, an apology. Not enough, but a start. He showed me, last night, police showed me everything. The locked bedroom, the padlock on the fridge, Jessica couldn't say the rest. Just cried, shoulders shaking. Maeve took 1 step forward, then another. Then she was running, crashing into her mother's arms, both of them crying. I'm sorry, Jessica sobbed. I'm so sorry, I should have seen it. I should have protected you. I should have believed you. Ironside watched from across the cafeteria, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Wrench stood beside him. Think she'll be okay? Wrench asked quietly. Eventually. Ironside's voice was rough. Long road ahead. Therapy. Trust rebuilding. Jessica's got to prove she'll choose her daughter over the next guy. But yeah, I think they'll make it. And you? Ironside touched his vest pocket, the one where he kept Rebecca and Rachel's photo. I couldn't save my daughters, but I saved 1 little girl. That's something. That's everything, Wrench corrected. 3 weeks later, December 6th, Greenfield Township Courthouse, Marcus Allen Holloway's arraignment. Charges read aloud by the prosecutor. 427 counts of identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit Medicare fraud, 4 counts of felony child abuse, unlawful imprisonment, 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, cigarette as weapon, obstruction of justice, money laundering, and 1 count of first-degree murder, Patricia Ann Holloway. FBI had found emails on Marcus's encrypted laptop discussing Patricia problem with a contact identified as Paul Sanderson, the dark web identity broker, discussing making it look like overdose, discussing sourcing oxycodone from hospital pharmacy records, discussing timeline. Patricia's body was being exhumed for new toxicology tests. Marcus stood in orange jumpsuit, shackled, face pale. His lawyer, public defender, overworked, outmatched, entered plea of not guilty. Bail denied. Trial date set for March 2025. Maeve didn't attend. She was at Ironside's house, helping Pops bake cookies for the December Toy Run, the annual Hells Angels charity event where they collected toys for Children's Hospital. She'd gained 7 pounds in 3 weeks, color coming back to her face, the burn on her palm healing properly now with antibiotics and proper wound care. The split lip healed, the bruises faded to yellow, then gone. She was learning to laugh again, learning to trust. Learning that food would be available tomorrow, that locked doors were for keeping bad people out instead of keeping her in, that adults could be safe. Diesel had set her up with a tablet, brand new, not Marcus's old one, and showed her how to video call Ironside when she needed to talk. Twice she'd called at 2 a.m., nightmares making her panic. Twice Ironside had answered immediately, talked her through breathing exercises, stayed on video until she fell back asleep. Smoke had connected her with Dr. Ellen Rodriguez, trauma therapist who specialized in child abuse cases. Weekly sessions, sometimes twice weekly when the nightmares got bad. Tiny had taught her basic self-defense. "Not so you have to fight," he'd explained in his surprisingly gentle voice for a 6'6" man. "So you know you can. So you feel strong." Pops brought her to the clubhouse every Sunday for family dinner. All the brothers and their families, kids running around, laughter and food and belonging. Wrench had worked with CPS to create reunification plan for Jessica. Supervised visits twice weekly. Therapy for both. Gradual rebuilding of trust. Timeline, 6 months before Maeve could go home, assuming Jessica followed through on every requirement. Jessica was following through. Quit her job at the hospital. Too many memories. Too much Marcus contamination. Started working at a dental office doing billing. Started therapy. Started rebuilding her relationship with her parents, Maeve's grandparents, who Marcus had isolated her from. Started showing up. Consistently. Proving she'd choose Maeve this time. By Christmas, Maeve was thriving in ways that seemed impossible 3 months earlier. Enrolled in Greenfield Elementary for January start. Real school, real education, real friends. Gained 11 pounds total, up to 63 pounds. Still underweight, but trending right direction. Nightmares down from nightly to twice weekly. The pink dress had been entered as evidence in Marcus's trial. Exhibit A, the cigarette burn damage analyzed by forensic specialists, proving Marcus's lighter was the weapon. After trial, it would go to Maeve. She'd decided to donate it to the courthouse museum. Let it be a symbol of survival. But she'd kept grandmother's locket, wore it every day. Inside, she'd added a second photo. Ironside, with Rebecca and Rachel. Past protectors and present protectors together. 6 months after that frozen November night. May 2025. Marcus Allen Holloway's trial lasted 4 days. Jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing, 47 years in federal prison. No parole eligibility for 32 years. Financial restitution of $340,000 to identity theft victims. Additional restitution to Jessica and Maeve. $50,000 for medical expenses, therapy, lost wages. Patricia's murder case was still pending. Exhumation showed oxycodone levels inconsistent with self-administration, more consistent with forced ingestion. DA was building case for trial by fall, but Marcus was already gone. 47 years meant he'd die in prison. He was 43. He'd be 90 before parole eligibility. He'd taken 2 lives, destroyed dozens more. Justice was served cold and permanent. Maeve testified via video, Ironside holding her hand off camera. The jury watched this tiny girl, still small for her age, but healthier now, stronger, explain in her quiet voice how Marcus had systematically destroyed her childhood. Several jurors cried. Marcus showed no emotion. After sentencing, Maeve did something unexpected. She asked to see him. Not in person. Through glass, jail visiting room, Ironside and Wrench flanking her. Marcus sat on the other side, orange jumpsuit, shackles, face haggard. Maeve picked up the phone, looked him in the eye. "I'm not scared of you anymore," she said simply. "You tried to make me disappear. You tried to make me nothing. But I'm still here, and you're the one who's gone." She hung up, walked away, didn't look back. Marcus sat there alone, the weight of 47 years settling on his shoulders like stone. September 2025. 10 months after the gravel parking lot, after the $12, after the impossible plea. Maeve Catherine Brennan stood on a small stage in the Hells Angels, Pennsylvania clubhouse, wearing a new dress, purple, her choice, with yellow flowers that actually fit. She'd gained 21 pounds since November, 63 pounds to 73 pounds. Healthy weight for her age now, color in her cheeks, confidence in her posture. The clubhouse was packed for the annual Brotherhood barbecue. 187 bikers and their families. Kids running around, music playing, smell of grilled burgers and hot dogs filling the air. Maeve held a microphone, looking out at the crowd. She wasn't scared anymore. These men, these leather-clad, tattooed, scary-looking men, were family. "I want to say thank you," Maeve said, voice steady. "To everyone. For believing me when nobody else did. For protecting me. For showing me what family really means." Ironside stood near the back, arms crossed, trying not to cry. Failing. "I learned something this year," Maeve continued. "I learned that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you're scared, but you do the thing anyway. I was terrified that night. I walked past 4 different groups of people before I got to the clubhouse. I wanted to give up, but I kept going, because staying home was worse than being scared." She paused, looked around the room. Every eye on her. "And I learned that protectors don't always look the way you expect. The people I thought would help, the people who looked safe, who had Bibles and nice clothes, they walked away. The people I thought would hurt me, the bikers with scary patches and tattoos, they saved my life." Applause started. Maeve held up her hand. Not done yet. "I want to say thank you especially to Ironside. He kneeled down in a parking lot and promised me I'd be safe. And he kept that promise. He's teaching me to ride a motorcycle when I'm old enough. He comes to my school plays. He checks my homework. He's not replacing my dad. Nobody could. But he's showing me what protection looks like." She looked directly at Ironside. "You couldn't save Rebecca and Rachel, but you saved me, and I think they'd be proud of that." The applause was deafening. 187 bikers and their families, standing, clapping for a 9-year-old girl who'd survived hell and came out stronger. V-Rex. Tank, the chapter vice president who'd taken Ironside's call that November night, raised his hand. The crowd quieted. "Brothers and families, the club has voted. Unanimous. Maeve Brennan, from this day forward, you carry the road name Little Dove. Because you came to us in peace, because you chose courage over silence, because you've earned your place in this family." "Little Dove," the assembled brothers repeated. recognition, acceptance, family. Maeve felt tears slip down her face, but this time they were good tears, safe tears, the kind you cry when you realize you're home. She stepped off the stage. Ironside caught her in a hug that lifted her feet off the ground, gentle despite his size, the kind of hug that said, "I've got you, and I'm never letting go." "Proud of you, sweetheart," he whispered. "I know," Maeve whispered back. This story isn't really about bikers or patches or motorcycles roaring through small-town streets. It's about a little girl who had every reason to give up, who'd been failed by every system designed to protect her, who'd been told by trusted adults that she was the problem, who had nothing but $12 and a desperate prayer, choosing to take one more step forward. It's about the moment when terror meets courage, and courage wins by the smallest margin. It's about looking past appearances to see the truth underneath. The church ladies in their gold crosses who quoted scripture about bearing false witness, the respected businessmen who volunteered and coached and destroyed children behind closed doors, the scary bikers covered in leather and scars who turned out to be the gentlest protectors a child could ask for. Real evil wears nice clothes and friendly smiles. Real protection often comes in packages society teaches us to fear. Here's what Maeve proved that cold November night. You don't need a vest to be a protector. You don't need a motorcycle or a patch or 200 brothers. You just need $12 worth of courage and the willingness to ask for help when the world tells you to stay silent. You just need to keep walking forward even when every step hurts, even when rejection piles on rejection, even when the people who should help turn away. Because somewhere at the end of that walk, there might be someone who kneels down, who makes you a promise, who believes you when nobody else will. And sometimes that person is exactly the one you least expected. There are Maeves everywhere. Children falling through cracks that shouldn't exist. Children being hurt by people who are supposed to protect them. Children being erased by systems designed to fail them. 427 identity theft victims whose lives were stolen. Patricia Holloway, who lost her life while trying to get help. Every child whose abuse report gets filed away as unfounded because the abuser presented well and the system is understaffed and overworked. And there are protectors everywhere. People who'll drop to one knee in a parking lot. People who'll mobilize 187 brothers with one phone call. People who'll stand in the gap between a victim and a system that's failing them. People who'll give away their president's vest. Because a scared child needs armor more than they do. You don't need leather and chrome to be that person. You just need to care enough to act. Pay attention. Listen when a child hesitates. Notice the ones who flinch, who are too quiet, who wear long sleeves in summer, who suddenly stop coming to school. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Make the calls. Stand in the gap. Be the person who doesn't look away even when looking away would be easier. Because here's what that frozen November evening proved. Sometimes the most powerless person in a room holds the key to saving not just themselves, but hundreds of others. Sometimes $12 and a whispered plea can dismantle a criminal enterprise and expose systemic failures and save a life. Sometimes the smallest voice, the one shaking with cold and terror but speaking anyway, changes everything. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that voice finds someone brave enough to kneel down and listen. If this story moved you, subscribe to Gentle Bikers and share it with someone who needs to remember that real protectors still exist. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, who your protector was, or what you wish someone had done when you needed help. Let us know you stand with Maeve, with Patricia, with every person who refuses to stay silent when they see wrong. Because this world needs more people willing to kneel down in parking lots, more people willing to believe children, more people willing to look past scary exteriors to see protective hearts. Maybe, just maybe, that person could be you. Warm June evening. 18 months after the $12. Maeve Brennan, age 10 now, 76 pounds, healthy and strong and thriving, sat on the porch swing at her mother's apartment. New apartment, different side of town, safe building where Marcus's ghost couldn't reach them. She was doing homework, 5th grade math. She'd made honor roll last semester, joined student council, started volunteering at the hospital on weekends, pediatric ward, reading to sick kids, showing them that survival was possible. Her phone buzzed. Text from Ironside. Toy run meeting tomorrow at 10. You coming? She smiled, typed back, wouldn't miss it. Through her window, she could hear her mother making dinner, humming along to radio. The smell of spaghetti sauce, Maeve's favorite, filled the apartment. Normal. Safe. Home. On her dresser sat the Ziploc bag with $12. She'd never spent it. Kept it as reminder of the night everything changed. Kept it as symbol of impossible hope that turned out to be real. The plastic Spider-Man figure Ironside had given her, not the one from his daughter's grave, a different one he'd bought special for her, stood guard beside the money. And the pink dress with white lace collar, the one Grandma made, hung in a display case at the Greenfield Township Courthouse. Evidence Exhibit A, symbol of survival. Proof that sometimes the smallest victims become the bravest witnesses. Maeve picked up her grandmother's locket, opened it, looked at the photos inside. Grandma on one side, Ironside with his daughters on the other. Past love and present protection together. She whispered the words Grandma used to say, the words that carried her through the worst night of her life. I'm braver than I know. And somewhere in Detroit, another child might be counting their last dollars, trying to find courage to ask a stranger for help. Another victim might be one step away from their own parking lot, their own impossible plea, their own salvation. Because Maeve Catherine Brennan proved something that cold November evening that echoes forward into every tomorrow. Miracles don't always come from heaven. Sometimes they come from a gravel parking lot, a leather vest, and the courage to whisper 6 impossible words to someone who looks scary, but might, just might, be exactly what you need. I have $12 to hire you as my dad. And sometimes the answer you get back changes everything. You don't need $12, sweetheart. You've got me.